Welcome to another Childless Conversation. I'm Laura Viñasco. Nicole Center is my co-host in this. Well, hi, Nicole. How are you?
Hello. Good. Nice to be here.
I I miss talking to you, and even when we don't record, we chat a lot on WhatsApp, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So today we want to talk about Mother's Day because it was this weekend, and we have some things we felt and we saw. And so for me, it's kind of, it compounds two things, and together it's my childlessness and it's that I don't have the best relationship with my mom. I absolutely love her, but I think every child loves their mother, even though when it's a crappy one. So it's kind of hard to not having the happy day for myself, and I don't feel like completely I don't feel completely comfortable saying to her Happy Mother's Day because it's like you are not a good mom. you know?
Yeah.
But I stayed away from social media. I did open social media a couple of times, kind of how we open the fridge. Like I don't know when did I came here to. I forgot I should stay away today too, because I have all these posts from yesterday. What I did see is that on threads there is these movements of that dogs and cat moms are also moms, and we also should get the Happy Moms Day. And there are a lot of dogs and cat pics that it was like, yeah, I love that. How do you feel about all of that? Because
Yeah. I think it's a safe to say it's not my favorite day of the year. And now, as you know, it's sort of compounded with it was my dad's the yesterday was the anniversary, 1 year anniversary of my dad passing. So it was, yeah, it was Mother's Day. And again, it's um yeah, I love my mom dearly, but there's certainly been challenges in our relationship too. And she actually has some pretty extreme mental health challenges and PTSD and agoraphobia. And so we had made a plan with her, and she felt so overwhelmed that she canceled, which is a really a sort of a regular occurrence that I've gotten used to, but there was certainly a lot of grief tied to that over the years. And now there's just a lot of like compassion. Just I really feel for how much she struggles and how, she struggles so much that she does have children and can't spend the day with them. And just how painful that is. And then, I tend to avoid it in all other ways, just because it is a really painful day. And I guess there's two things that come to mind. Once is like, I don't have a pet right now, but when I did, it never actually made the day better for me to focus on my pet. Like I love animals and I loved my dog, and yet it's also not a child. So it was always a bit of a hard one for me to reframe. Um, and then the other thing that I noticed this year, which was really interesting, was that in the last couple of years, there would be a lot of emails coming through in the lead up to Mother's Day saying, if you want to opt out, press this
yeah,
button and you won't get any more emails. That completely disappeared this year. Um, and I got so flooded my inbox. And I try to keep I'm not on a lot of email lists just because I try to keep it pretty minimal and simple. But it was amazing the number from like the most random of places, and everything turns into a consumerist deal of like, get your Mother's Day special. And I just kind of got really sick of it after a while. And I got another one today, and I was just like, can we be done already? And I'm wondering whether it has to do with like a combo of um, DEIs like being slashed pretty much in the US, and
Yeah.
then the really strong pronatalist conversation that's going on, especially in the US right now, but elsewhere as well. I mean, I'm hearing it in Canada, but those two compounded. It's like too bad. Yay, Mother's Day. Too bad if it's a shitty day for you. Like it's yeah, so it's
Yeah.
interesting because I feel like there's just sadness about that too, that sensitivity that felt like was developing in the last few years around this day is just totally gone now. So yeah, a lot a lot going on this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I I'm not subscribed to almost anything. The two or three subscriptions I have are like Shoddy Days and Lana Manikovsky. So they wouldn't like flood me with Mother's Day thing. Or not in a bad way, you know. It's like they both had events, but for
Mhm.
support, not like, oh, you're not a mother. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know if I feel like my dogs are my kids, but they keep me distracted. I have three pets, so at some point every day I like, oh my God, leave me alone. I need to do this. Especially like when I'm editing an episode and there at least half an hour, and it takes me like 2 or 3 hours to finish listening to the episode and doing the sound things and because they like I want to go out, I want to get it. So Mother's Day is not about my me feeling like, oh, this is my child, but they get me distracted because
Yeah.
they are I have always a pet around. I don't even
Yeah.
go to the bathroom alone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I need to laugh about it because otherwise it would be
Absolutely.
sad. But I, yeah, I feel like I didn't think that DI thing and the prenatalism thing were going to turn back the I don't care if you are sensitive. Because I'm seeing a lot of other things that are happening that are like I don't want this DI happening, so I'm doing my part. Like today I saw a reel that Adidas is making running shoes especially for Down syndrome people because their feet are smaller but they are wider than the regular feet, so they are working with Down syndrome people do that, and that is kind of fuck you, DEI, I'm going to include more people. So I didn't think that that
Mm.
was going to happen with moms too, with childless women and moms, and it's so
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting because I feel like I've been really watching the conversation and the narratives that are going around right now. I find it just fascinating to watch. And even the term like pronatalism, I have a problem with it because I don't I kind of have a problem with the whole like pronatalism or antinatalism, either one of those, and the ways that they get sort of used. Because like as somebody with childless grief, and I'm certainly not antinatalist because I love kids.
Yeah,
Like I wanted them desperately, right? Like no, and I'm totally pro all of the supports for parents, affordable daycare, access to reproductive technology, like all of these things, right?
yeah,
But it's like to say that you like want sort of thoughtfulness and sensitivity around the issue sometimes gets like spun as your antinatalist. And
yeah,
I just don't want hypernatalism. I want a world where, if it's what you want, you have all the resources available for you to get it and to raise your children. And if you don't want it, or if you're unable to have it, you are still supported and have all the resources in a fair and equitable manner. Because right now, at least in Canada, it's not equitable. The if you are grieving, or going through a loss to a miscarriage, a stillborn, or even an adoption loss, you have recourse to take time off work and to be financially supported. If you're a single person who never got to try, you don't have that same access, right? So
Yeah.
I'm critical of the hyper and the inequality, but that never gets discussed in any of these discussions. It's like you're yes or you're no, and it's not, it's so much more nuanced than that. And I feel like that's really missing from a lot
Yeah,
of these
it's not a
conversations.
binary concept because there's so many
No.
things that goes in between the yes or no. The like I'm reading Shadi Day's book again because I'm going to interview her in the next month,
Mm,
and I didn't remember she had an abortion in her 20s because she wasn't ready. And that doesn't
yeah.
mean she would never have kids or she needs to be punished because, but there are a lot of things like that that are not discussed. And it's like you said, there is not enough support. Childcare is so cost that is like, I can't have a kid if I'm barely making my ends meet for my food. So
Yeah.
I'm going to work three jobs and have a kid that I want to see. And we are not even talking about the impact in that kid's life. Because my mom worked so fucking much that she wasn't listening to me. And I was treating every time like a burden. And she paid attention to me only when something happened to me, like when I had an asthma attack or when I opened my head. And
Yeah.
even in that situation, she never told me like, "Oh my God, I'm so grateful you're okay." It was like, "I have to be working right now, and I'm distracted by you because you can't." So, what is the benefit of having a kid if the mom can't be there for them? And I'm not talking about a homestead staying mom, like, but a mom that has time for her kids and her work, not working her ass off just to support childcare.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge issues. And it's interesting, again, like going back to some of these conversations, you've got somebody like Jordan Peterson saying, well, you should be having kids because there's nothing better to do. And what else have you got to do? And then he basically makes a correlation between narcissism and people who don't want kids, which is just complete BS and not helpful at all. And then you've got Elon Musk just like spreading his seed as much as possible. And nobody's actually in any of these cases actually thinking about the well-being of the children that are going to be brought into this world. So it's, like somebody like me who's really critical of the way that these discussions are happening could so easily be labeled as like antinatalist.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, I'm like, none of you guys, and these are all pro-natalist people like speaking out on this, and yet nobody's actually thinking about the children that are being brought into the world, to your point of like, it's not like nobody's having that discussion, but it's just it sometimes feels like, it's just lost. And
yeah,
that just really it bothers me and concerns me. It's like we're just going for numbers here. So just everybody have kids and we're just going to call everybody who doesn't want them. And there are like there's concerns about like some of the younger generation, when asked whether they want kids, like a large amount are saying no and a lot are saying they want their personal freedom. But Can I tell you how many people that I knew in my early 20s who said that to me and then ended up having kids? And then I'm the one who desperately wanted them and didn't have them, right? So there's just so many question marks around all of this. And it's just, I don't know, it's a little scary to me and sad the way that it's being discussed.
At 16 or 17, I was so angry at life that I usually said, like, I don't want kids. I don't want to bring kids into this fuck up world. And at the same time, in something that I wouldn't admit to others, I did want to be a mom. I did want to feel that love. But it's kind of easier to say I don't want kids because if it doesn't
Yeah.
happen, then oh, you wanted that, you know? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's not like because most people are saying they don't want kids, they are not going to have them. It's just that it's hard also. It's hard. Living is hard. So
Yeah.
thinking about raising a kid is also hard. And yeah, it's kind of no one is like you said, there is talk about this, but no one is really hearing about what is happening to those kids because it's there's so much noise and yelling about abortion and things like that that other nuances that really need to be discussed are not being heard.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, yeah, I'm just thinking back about, yeah, your comment on saying that just on how you can be scared to say that you want it because you're so afraid that it doesn't happen. Um, and I think I was so afraid that it wouldn't happen that in some ways it made it happen, but that's also too simplistic because underneath was such an incredible fear. And I don't know if you experienced this at all, like because my mother was not well for most of my like starting when I was like a young teenager. Um, and because of all the sort of responsibility, and this is something that gets pulled up with Mother's Day or gets sort of brought up with Mother's Day, is because of all the responsibility that was sort of put on my shoulders at a really young age. It actually made me terrified of responsibility for another human being. Um, and it was like, no matter how aware I was of it, I couldn't change the fear. So that whenever I really thought of actually becoming like a single mom and finding a way to do it on my own, but the fear of the responsibility was just so overwhelming. And there wasn't like a quick fix for it, you know? So it was like hard to admit to want something when I felt just so not actually in control of whether it was going to happen or not on so many different levels.
I never thought about becoming a single mom, but not because it's wrong, but because I was raised only by my mom.
Yeah.
And it was overwhelming. Everything is on me, even now.
Yeah.
And she is narcissistic and she has the emotional maturity of a 3 year old. Everything is a tantrum and I'm always the bad guy. And so I thought I can do that to my kid. I have to have a partner to have a kid because at least that kid can go to someone else and tell her like mom is crazy, and I
Yeah.
didn't have that. And I don't have siblings also, so everything is on me. So I
Yeah.
never even consider that for because I didn't want to live like that for them, not for me. And I am not saying every kid that is raised by a single mom feels that, but it was a fear that I would become my mom or that I would become the complete opposite and I would like everything is okay and you're free to do everything and but I also super involved in how are you feeling? Are you feeling great? Because
Yeah.
I would like go to the opposite direction my mom went.
Yeah.
And and it's not fair to a child also. So, but yeah, it's hard because I love my mom, but I know she had if she's bad as a mom, my grandma was worse.
Mm,
Like my grandmother was really abusive. But at the same time, I it's hard to forgive her for not doing the inner work she needed to do. And that I got all her insecurities and the gaslighting and the even when I set a boundary, I'm the bad guy. And I'm telling her like, don't hit me, you know? And it's like, oh, you've never let me do anything. You're punching me. So
yeah,
it's so hard. And that was also one of my fears. Like, what if my kid is like my mom and I never get to be really loved, you know? I hope you're enjoying this episode. If you're enjoying this, please subscribe, follow. Okay, back to the episode.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I relate to that in the sense of like I was so afraid because my mom was struggling so much emotionally for so many years, and I was so terrified of putting a child in the same position that I was put in. And because
Yeah,
I was struggling so much and didn't have answers, didn't know, what was going on, it was like, how do you have a child when you can barely keep your head above water?
yeah,
And yeah, I was just, I didn't, some people say, oh, well, a child will like make things better. Well, I didn't have any confidence in that. I didn't trust that. And it felt like a game of like Russian roulette almost. Like it was like a chance that I couldn't take. Okay, well, let's go and just get pregnant and see what happens. And I was so afraid of and I was so afraid of putting a child through what I went through. And then I was also, I mean, to be honest, like I get why kids now say personal freedom because the responsibility that I had early in life was so overwhelming that a part of me just desperately needed freedom. And again, it wasn't something I could control. Like it just was, like these things affect us in such profound ways. Um, and they don't necessarily have like easy, quick remedies to them. Sometimes they take years to untangle and to heal if, you know?
yeah. It's I have a better relationship with my mom now, but it's still sometimes like I was just telling you, and I felt the anger again. And it's not, I think everyone that tells us like, oh, when you have a kid, everything is going to be all right, is also a big fat lie. I feel like, oh,
Yeah,
join the club of uh, our stress life that we are not able to talk about. Because
yeah,
I have great admiration with for moms because they do so much.
yeah,
And that's what in my 20s when I started to having agoraphobia and panic attacks, and I also like had to consider that into my life because what happens if I don't dare go to pick up my kids from school? What would happen then?
yeah,
And I think a lot of moms push through a lot of things that we don't talk about. And that is a perk of being childless. I can talk about my anxiety and say, yeah, like I don't put my kid in the situation you went through on Mother's Day. And I know your mom struggles because since I have agoraphobia, I cancel so many plans and I feel so guilty and a lot of bad feelings on top of that. But at least I have the perk to, I'm not letting anyone else down. In that sense, it's
yeah.
my own thing. It's like, oh yeah, you're missing that. Yeah. And I saw a post also about the people that don't celebrate Mother's Day, not because they are not mothers, but because they have challenging mothers or they are completely strange from their mothers. And I think it's so fucked up that the that you're not this year, no, you can't opt to get out of the newsletters and the media and I thought like what is happening in America is going to only affect us economically, but it's not.
No. Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah, because we're all so sort of tied in with them that yeah, it's impossible for it to not affect us.
Yeah. Yeah, we are globally so entangled right now. And of course it has its perks like our friendship and it has those things that is why do I have to pay your anti-DI laws in Argentina?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy to do. And I mean, I think, given all of the automation and the technology that's available, I feel like when you sign up for emails, it would be really easy to have something built in to say, okay, do it one time and one time only, and say these are the occasions I want to opt out.
yeah,
Like, I don't really want a Christmas email. I don't celebrate it. Like, there's a
yeah.
lot of emails that I just don't want, right? So it would be so nice just to have it set up so you could opt out for all the occasions that you don't want to, because a lot of them are family driven and they're not ones that I really participate in all that much. So, and it would be, I don't see how it would be hard to do, but yeah,
It's so
given the
easy to do,
current,
actually. It's so easy to
yeah,
do. It's just the
yeah,
willing to do it.
yeah,
Because I worked as a VA and I only know what one platform to do the mailing listing, and it's easy to do. Don't send
yeah,
anything to this person in these occasions, and that's it. And the program does everything. You don't need to check up Mother's Day, Christmas, Mother's Day, again, Christmas again. You don't need to. It's like, yeah, this person no.
done one
And
time. Yeah,
yeah, and I think they end up losing clients also. Because
yeah,
for me, the more you wrap your product in my face, the less I want to buy you.
yeah, yeah. You know where I'm finding it challenging? Like, so the Mother's Day stuff, I just kind of was like, whenever I'd see it in the subject line, I'd be like, check, delete, check, delete, check,
Yeah,
delete.
absolutely.
But where it's been a little bit harder recently, and this is sort of extending beyond Mother's Day, is that a lot of people, I don't know, I feel it's fascinating to me that we're in this sort of birth decline period.
Yeah.
I am surrounded by pregnancies and birth over the last sort of, I would say, 6 months. Like, it's just like, I feel like and actually, I heard somebody at the office talking about this, just that there's like a baby boom going on. So I'd be interested to see the numbers in like a year or two. But what I'm also getting a lot of in my inbox are announcements from people. Like, if, say, I'm on like a newsletter for somebody who has like an ethical investing, I'm on his newsletter. He then has come out with like he's expecting his first child, and then now every email since has included a reference to that, and I'm getting a little tired of it, so I'm soon going to be like unsubscribe. So I find it a tricky thing to walk, because again, it comes across as if I'm antinatalist, but it actually just really hurts. It's
Yeah.
actually really painful to be hearing constantly about somebody's pregnancy announcement, birth announcement, like like, if I come to you for a particular reason because you offer a particular service, I want to hear about that. I don't want to hear all of the details about your personal life. And it's hard because I know it's such a big event and I know it's a really big thing in people's lives. Of course it is. And I still don't want to hear about it. It's just painful to me. And that pain never really gets acknowledged or is never actually. really thought of
And
and considered.
I feel like they think that since we don't want to hear about it, we don't care or we are blaming them. It's just not, I want to set this subject out. I can be
Yeah,
happy for you, but not for you rubbing it in my face because it hurts me. And it's a boundary.
yeah, yeah.
But people don't understand that.
No, I don't think they understand that there's like something about this. And I'm not saying it's like this for everybody who's childless, but for I think a lot, there's like, it's like, I feel like there's just this constant stab in my heart. Like it's like a knife is constantly going through my heart when this subject comes up. And it's again not that I'm like it could come across that I'm pronate or antinatalist. I just don't like hypernatalism. It's painful. It's hard. It increases my anxiety.
Yeah.
It affects my mental and emotional well-being. And I just don't really want to be around it a lot in any capacity. It's a big thing in the workplace too that I wish was sort of discussed more. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm not blaming. I'm not saying don't, celebrate, just celebrate it in a different area. Not flooding my inbox.
A few months ago, when I started the podcast and the membership, and like I did another email so I could like separate things. And I get an email that was like business woman, like a sisterhood of business women. And I open it and it was like, "Hi mamas, I know we are," and I replied to them like, "I'm not a mom. So I think you like mistaken." And my email is happychildlessmindset@gmail. It's not like, and a few weeks later, another one. But the second reply wasn't so kind. Like, it was like, the fuck are you doing? Are you trying to shame me because I couldn't have kids? Are you trying to, if I'm child free, make me have kids? What are you doing? I'm not a mom. I don't want to talk business with my kids around me because I don't have them. They stop. But it was like, and it was like pictures of moms in the desk with the toddlers. And it was like, that is not for me. Why are you sending me this? It's not that hard.
Yeah,
When you read the email address, at least don't you know what to do? Send me an email. I have this blog for, are you interested? Is this for you? It's not that hard.
yeah.
Like,
I
ask
can't
me.
believe that. Wow.
And I felt so ashamed and so blamed for not being able to have kids. And I
Yeah,
think, why are you sliding into my email?
yeah. I feel like it's like I feel like we're put. I mean, I've heard people say like mothers are put in impossible situations, and I'm not denying that at all. Like none of this is trying to, be
Yeah,
harsh on
undermine.
mothers
Yeah,
whatsoever. But I feel like we can't win in a way. It's like there's the expectation that we're supportive of mothers. There's sort of um, the we can't say that we don't want to hear about kids or babies or pregnancies or anything like that. We I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I sometimes feel like we can't win. We can't be
yeah,
really truly honest about what we
yeah.
want to say, because then we're not being supportive of mothers.
Or we're
Like
oversensitive, or yeah,
yeah, like, and there's no sort of respect for what it can be like to walk through, or the assumption is made that we didn't want kids and therefore just should put up like hearing about all them all the time or something like that, right?
yeah.
Like
And I
it's
would
just
feel like, oh yeah, it's just another day, and it's not.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it feels like I don't know. It often feels like the childless get very little consideration, or
yeah. I think we
very
are
few people actually
invisible.
think about what it's like to walk in. in their shoes.
I think we're invisible. We are kind of the blind spot of society because
Yeah.
we don't fit any category. Because, like, a hypernatalism is not going to come to attack us that we wanted kids and we couldn't, but we are not antinatalism either. So it's like, oh, you don't matter. You are not either or the other. So
Yeah.
and and I think a lot of us would have benefit a lot with more information about sexuality, fertility, and a lot of things that are in the antinatalism agenda.
Mm.
And I'm not antinatalism, but prenatalism is not talking about or not talking enough
Interesting.
about that. Because
Speak more. Tell me more about that.
yeah, I realized I went to do my first IUI when I was 32. No one told me, even my mom is a doctor, and I grew up surrounded by doctors. All her friends were doctors. No one told me at 35 the your chances to get pregnant are almost zero, you know? So when I got at 32 to do a IUI, the doctor told me like, you're already old enough. You should have come 5 years ago. And for me, it was like uh, something broke, because I didn't
Mm.
have enough information.
Mm.
And that information is usually being provided by the antinatalism agenda because they try to protect the women for getting pregnant. Like,
Yeah,
and
like they're kind of put against each other, but they're actually not. Like to say that you want to have choice in terms of the timing of your reproductive life is not to say you're
yeah,
anti-natalist, but they often get sort of,
exactly. But
yeah,
I needed that
against,
information.
right.
But also, like, I started having real cramps and pains for my period when I was 15. And I was yelling that there was something wrong with me, that it
Mm.
wasn't natural. And my mom didn't believe me. She told me I was being overdramatic. And 2 years
Mm.
later, I had to have an emergency laparoscopy because I had the cyst that burst.
Wow.
And I sat in the ecography office every week asking them to check again because I had diarrhea, vomiting. I was in a fetal position for days. I couldn't function. No, you're okay. That's normal. And that is not talking off in the prenatalism agenda. It's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. I do hear a lot about there's a lot of talk about educating women about the realities of reproductive health. But I think part of the challenge is that like we're also with our extended lifespan and with sort of there's a term for it, and I can't remember what it is, but it's like generations are sort of maturing later than they used to.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a number of different factors that go in. And so they're saying, like you really want to be like married and having kids in your 20s. The, I mean, it's nice in theory, but like, I don't know many people who were ready to have kids in their 20s, and this isn't to say there's also like, I think a false narrative that like women are like focusing on their career. I don't really know many who were focusing on their career, to be quite honest. It was more of just like timing of when they met their partner and all of this, and or whether they did or didn't.
Or figure out
Um,
who we are.
yeah, yeah, which there's even criticism on that there's too much focus on figuring out who you like. It's like you can't win, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing in me that would have been ready to have a kid in my 20s. It would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
So it's a really weird
Absolutely.
conversation in some respects to me. And what was also interesting was that I had a friend who, when we were in university, was very aware of like the biological clock and all of that. And she was panicking in her early 20s about the timing of like when she would like have kids and everything. So in some ways I was like hyper aware of it, but it didn't do anything to speed me up. Like it
Yeah.
just felt like pressure that wasn't helping. And so it's like a tricky thing because it's like you want to be honest and you want to be real about the realities. The other fascinating thing is that everybody that I knew, and again, this is like it's so weird because your little circle, it's so important for me to remind myself that my little circle is not necessarily representative of what's happening elsewhere, because everybody that I knew who tried to get pregnant in their mid to late 30s or even early 40s was successful. I think one or two did have to go the IVF route, but for the second child, but were still successful. One I know wasn't. And then I even know somebody who got pregnant at 45 and gave birth at 46. So it's in my world, if I didn't actually listen to anybody, what anybody else was saying, I'd be like, oh yeah, no, wait till you're 40 something, right? And then I'm like, oh, that's actually not, doesn't work for
Yeah.
everybody.
My mom had me at 32. And a lot of her friends, as I said, all doctors, the medicine takes so many study year and the residency, and they were in their 30s when they started having kids. So when
Yeah.
I walk into the doctor's office for the IUI and I'm 32 and with endometriosis, and he told me like, not, there's no good chance. For me, it was, are you against me or something? And then I learned
Mm,
that all the studies and the, but as I said, no one told about it. And
no
my
one told you.
bubble, it was normal to do that.
Right.
Everyone had kids in their 30s. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I knew one woman that is child free and another one that adopted a kid, but I realized the kid was adopted like when I was already an adult. So I
Mm,
never knew you you might not be a mom. It was like it was a given.
right.
So I think again that nuances are not talked enough.
No, especially I mean, I think when I was in my 20s or even 30s, the last thing I wanted to do was hear about the woman who really wanted kids but didn't have them. That was like, yeah, it was just like, I'm not going there. Like, I didn't want to actually face the reality of what might be coming to me. It was like my worst fear. And so I just like couldn't go there. But in retrospect, now that I've started to meet, like, it's been actually really in a way healing to meet older women who have walked this and to hear their stories and how they got through it and
Yeah.
that they still were able to lead, lives that they loved, even though this was always something that they carried with them. And but I couldn't hear it in my 30s, I think. But now I'm really appreciative of them.
I think I would have loved to hear them in my 30s,
Mm,
but it was still another world. Even though there was internet, it wasn't as instant as it is now that a book is
yeah.
released in States and is released here also. So
Mhm.
it took Jolly's Day book became available just 2 or 3 years ago in Argentina because like we talked the tariff and exportation. So I
Yeah.
I didn't I didn't hear about that and I was utterly shattered when at 32 I couldn't and I didn't know where to look at. Who are
Yeah, I
my
can
examples?
imagine. Yeah,
I
you're
can't
so young then too.
yeah, it was 11 years ago. And I feel like I'm not the same person and that happened like 60 years ago, but
Yeah.
yeah, but I needed that examples too. So it's one of the things why I'm doing the podcast and we are doing this because I hope we can help that woman that I was and didn't have anyone to like start looking at. I'm not a model, but like, oh, she made it. Maybe I can too.
Yeah. It's huge. I mean, yeah, I didn't have anybody either. I mean, I was struggling with this since probably my late 20s or early 30s, like as well. It didn't even dawn on me. The only thing that I ever heard about was fertility support groups. And I was like, well, I'm not going through fertility treatment, so I
Yeah,
can't join those. So again, like that to that invisible that you were speaking of, just totally lost, no support. And then it dawned on me one day, oh, what if I do a Google search? Maybe there is something else out there for me. And I'm so grateful I had that, you know that thought one day, but it's amazing how long it took me, like over 15 years to search, to
same
think that
here.
something might be out there. Yeah, it's wild, hey?
I found out that I am childless like 3 or 4 years ago. And again,
Yeah,
it's a Google search because I was so sad that someone got pregnant and I felt like I was the shittiest person in the world. And I started
yeah,
asking Google, what is happening to me? Am I a bad person? Oh no, you're childless. Oh my God, there are
yeah.
others. And I'm not bad. I'm just grieving. And I didn't know I was grieving. And it was like I felt flooded with this new information and
Yeah.
this realization that I am not a bad person. And I didn't want to be a bad person. I just didn't know why I was feeling sad.
I know, I know. I I think I said this on the first podcast, the first episode we recorded, but like I really feel like I had a moral injury around this because I felt so like I had no capacity. It's still limited to feel happy for somebody when they announce that they're pregnant or have had
Yeah,
a child. Like it's still really, really hard. And I felt like I was a horrible, horrible, horrible person.
yeah.
And I just, yeah, it was so much shame. Um, and yeah, this whole finding this whole world was like a game changer. It was like, oh my God, I am not the awful, horrible, shitty mess of a person I thought I would. I'm
Yeah.
just in a lot of pain.
I still feel sometimes sad around someone with a newborn or something like that, but I don't feel guilty. I feel the
Yeah,
sadness and I can say, okay, that's my grief. Not that
yeah,
I'm this person that shouldn't exist, because I'm so bad and I'm worse than Satan, you know,
yeah,
because that's how I
totally.
felt. And I'm laughing now, but at the time I felt like, how can I be this horrible person? I don't want to live. I'm a demon.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I totally would. In fact, one of the beautiful things that shifted. So one of my very, very good friends shared with me about 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure if I even told you this, that she's sort of reaching the end of her reproductive life and is thinking like, oh my gosh, I want to try now. And it's been overwhelming for me because it is such a tender thing.
Yeah,
And I was actually really honest, and I love this friend so much, and we were able to like really have some nice like back and forth on this. And I just said, I may need to take some time away, like I may. It takes, body, mind, and soul some time to adjust to the new reality. And
yeah,
this one's a really tender one. And it's, like my cousin and his partner had a baby a few months ago, and they sent me a card, and I haven't opened it yet. It's sitting on my altar. And I just haven't been ready. And it's like now there's permission. Before I would have forced myself to open it because otherwise I was a bad person. I would
yeah,
have forced myself through all of the things with my friend. And now I'm just like, no, you don't have to. Like, take care of yourself through this. You're not abandoning anybody. You're not, being mean to anybody. This is just really hard and tender. And it's, for so many years, it being so hard and not knowing what was going on makes it even a little bit more tender, I think.
yeah.
So it's like it's nice just to give myself again, like you said, that permission to just be like, And it's the same thing with Mother's Day. Like, I don't actually wish any of my friends who are mothers happy Mother's Day. I'm like, it's not my job. Like, that's for their kids to do. And I noticed I was somewhere, I was had an appointment the other day, and the woman was who I know, she's a good friend of a friend's, the practitioner that I was seeing. And she said to her client who was leaving, "Oh, happy Mother's Day." And this person doesn't have kids. And I immediately thought, oh my God, am I supposed to be saying Happy Mother's Day to everybody? And I was like, no, it's not. They're not my mother. Like, I'll say Happy Mother's Day to my mother, but I don't have the responsibility. I don't have to. And I think in years past, I would have felt like I was a bad person for not doing that.
Yeah, some of what you were saying, I also have now the capacity to talk to someone like your friend and tell her, okay, I'm going to need space while you go through this and not
Mhm.
push through or just ghost her. I'm not a
Yeah.
ghosting kind of person, but like I wouldn't know what to do. And then out of shame, I would like disappear slowly.
Yeah. I
So
get that.
that's another perk, that, yeah, I can tell you this is hard for me because this, and this. I hope you understand. And the other thing about the Mother's Day, I did say Happy Mother's Day to a few women that mothered
Mhm.
me.
Mm,
Like a friend of my mom, she has a, a daughter my age, and I'm really good friends with one of his sons also. So but she mothered me. So for me,
mm,
she deserved that Happy Mother's Day.
yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah.
But I'm not like, oh, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother's Day. No, it's just like two or three people that I feel they deserve my recognition that they play a role in who I am today.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think we reached the end of this episode. It was like, I think we can revisit a few things here and there because it was,
Yeah, we kind of went.
yeah, and
Mhm.
and there are so many other things in there that we can
Yeah.
keep exploring. Thank you so much for
Next
being
time.
here, and yeah, see you
Thank
next time.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.